Hey guys, um, I've had this interesting thing happen lately where I've had a lot of people, and I have no idea why, but a lot of people within the past few weeks contact me and email me and ask me about dark spirits, evil spirits, demons, the devil, stuff like that. And I thought about it. Like I thought about why is this coming up? You're always going to get a little bit of that here and there. People have religious programming. Um, the media has so much out there with movies and the haunting and all of these different things. It's in pop culture, but having grown adults contact me because they are legitimately scared that there is a red man with a pitchfork um, kind of boggles my mind a little bit. And so I just kind of wanted to give my perspective on things like the devil or evil spirits or demons and stuff like that. So, first, I will say I am a spiritualist, I am a medium, and in over 10 years of doing this work, I have never encountered an evil spirit. I have never encountered a demon. I have never seen the devil. It's just not a part of my experience of the spirit world or the afterlife or the supernatural world, whatever you want to call it. Um, it's funny, the other night I was browsing through Hulu and there was this reality show about Bob Larson, who I was kind of familiar with before, but he's sort of an evangelist who's known for performing these exorcisms. And I was watching this show, and at first I found it kind of humorous, the shenanigans that were going on. But then it actually kind of made me start to feel sad for these people. And, um, I don't know Bob. I don't know if he actually believes what he does, if he's a con man, what the deal is. But to me, it's not real. Um, so I guess the first thing, as far as that goes, is all these shows and all these stuff, everything's demons, right? Um, and I think sometimes that plants a seed in people's heads. But the reality is, you're not that interesting. You're not that interesting that if there are these dark, evil forces that you're so interesting that they need to get to you. If there were such a thing as these demons or evil spirits or Satan or Lucifer, I'd be focused on like taking down the Pope or Joel Osteen or Joyce Meyer. All these people have lots of followers. They're not going to be interested in the guy in paranormal state at the trailer park. Now that being said, I do believe in the phenomena of spirit attachment and that can influence our mood and our behaviors, but I don't believe in possession. So I guess when it comes to the spirit world, my insight has always been that the spirit world and this world really aren't that different. There are people who are not so nice, and there are really wonderful people. And, the same thing goes. I don't think that the personality changes immediately upon passing over, and I don't think that it necessarily has to change drastically. I think there's a broader perspective that's open to us, but it's completely our choice, our free will, whether or not we allow, accept that growth or that broader perspective to become a more in alignment or more loving being on the other side. So, maybe there's a grouchy, grumpy spirit person, but that doesn't make it a demon. And if there's genuine paranormal activity going on in your home, don't automatically leap to the conclusion that there's a evil spirit or a demon with horns who's going to jump out of the closet and get you. There's to me that's not a real experience. It's almost humorous to me. But again, the fact that there are rational, educated, grown people who are worried about a man with a pitchfork, um, and that every little thing that they do is being inventoried in this life, and if they don't get it just right, they're going to burn forever, makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever, because my idea of the divine, my idea of the source, is an impersonal force. It exists within all of us, and there's not a sense of judgment or separation or superiority. So I want to touch for a minute too on possession. I do not believe in demonic possession. I mentioned that show that I was watching earlier, The Real Exorcist, and I believe that these people believe their experiences, and I believe that they have the reactions that they're having. But it's an interesting sort of thing, and whether or not he realizes that he's doing it, I don't know. But in a situation like that, as someone who studied different aspects of hypnotherapy, it's very easy to create a group hypnosis, a mob mentality. And so you get people sort of in an altered state with movements and charisma and the way that you speak, and you touch on their fears and their insecurities, and then you get them really agitated, and then you find one who you can essentially trigger an ab reaction with. And then all of a sudden it makes it more legitimate for the people in the audience who are watching, and they're more inclined to allow themselves to have sort of a psychological disassociation or an ab reaction, and then they're convinced that they've had an exorcism, or that a demon has come forward, when in reality it could have just been a subpersonality, a psychological aspect of themselves. So regardless, and I always say too, I'm not the end-all be-all, I don't have all the answers, I can only speak from my experience, but I think oftentimes people who believe that they're afflicted by demons or dark entities or evil spirits, it's their inner demons. It's often as a result of things that they don't want to deal with: guilt, shame, fear, anger, old hurts. It gets suppressed, and then it seeks to express itself outward. And even if there is legitimate, like, weird circumstances going on in our houses or in our homes, I do believe that it's very popular, or very possible, to essentially haunt yourself. The mind is a very powerful thing, and I absolutely believe that it can affect our reality. You get enough people believing that they're being oppressed or possessed, and they have a lot of pent up, intense, emotional, psychic energy that can absolutely manifest outwardly. Even if there were such a thing as demons, I think it boils down to vernacular. I deal with human souls, human spirits. That's my experience of the spirit world. But that doesn't mean that there aren't things out there that we're unfamiliar with. But it doesn't make them bad, it makes them different. They have a different understanding of things. So we can't jump to conclusions. I'll use the example of this. The other world is a different vibrational frequency, the other side. And I'm sure that there's many different planes or dimensions or aspects of that that is potentially tap into a bowl. So think about a tiger. The tiger is, if you've never seen a tiger before and you came across a tiger, it's foreign, it's unusual looking, it's different, it doesn't look like what we're familiar to, and it can be vicious. But does it make that tiger bad or evil or demonic? For us, we could see that it would destroy things and tear things apart, and we have this internal compass that says this is good or this is bad. But the tiger is not thinking as it's ripping apart the gazelle or the lamb or whatever tigers eat, that it's being evil. It's just doing its nature. And the same thing could be said for whatever you want to call them, otherworldly beings, other entities that may be non-human. So just because they're different, just because they have a different view of things, or their reality, their experience doesn't mirror our own, doesn't make them negative, demonic, evil, anything like that. So, if there is such a thing of evil, it's the degree of which we've moved away from our source. It's the degree of which we've moved away from love. So even if we were to encounter something that we would see as very dark or negative, I don't necessarily think that it is this beyond hope kind of a soul. It would simply, in my opinion, be something that's lost sight that spark of the divine exists within it. And I don't think, as a spiritualist, we believe that the doorway to reformation is never closed. So even if that degree of misalignment existed in some sort of spirit entity, it would simply need reminding of that light, not, cast into a fiery pit, or, as Bob Larson says, I call on the hounds of hell to eat your flesh. It's theatrics. You know, that sort of thing is theatrics. We have free will. That's part of the deal. That's part of the package when we come into this life experience. Nothing can infringe upon your free will without your consent. Nothing has access to your body without your consent. You know, as a spiritualist, excuse me, my screen just went dark. You know, as a spiritualist and as a medium, you know, we have trance work, trance mediumship, where we allow a certain degree of altered consciousness that a spirit person may influence us, speak through our body, have access to some of our motor skills. But even that's not possession. We're not leaving our body completely. Another spirit isn't taking over our body completely. We're giving permission for a spirit intelligence, hopefully a high vibrational nature, to blend with our auric field and sort of energetically plug into our nervous systems, that they may bring through, most of the time it's philosophy, or answer questions, or possibly evidence from people that have passed over. That's not the same as possession. I will say, too, that in some cultures, like we see it in voodoo, you know, they use the word possession, I think, in a slightly different way than those with a sort of a Catholic or a Christian perspective would use possession. So for them, you know, they have their intermediaries between them and the Great Spirit, which I guess it's not quite like this, but just for the sake of this explanation, we can call them gods or deities. But they're more or less these intermediaries, these intermediary spirits, and they will use the terminology, or if you read about it, you'll read about the terminology of possession. So it's called being mounted, where the spirit person sort of takes over the body, or that entity, or that deity kind of takes over the body. Even and I do believe that that's a legitimate experience, a legitimate spiritual phenomena. But even then, it's not possession in the sense of I'm not giving my consent. And that this is just something that's happening against my will. You know, these are practitioners who have a deeply ingrained faith, and actually it's a very beautiful faith, and they choose to interact with the divine in this way as part of their spiritual practice. So even that is not the same as these, you know, malevolent entities sort of taking over your body. If you're one of those people who feel like you're afflicted in some way, I would say start looking within first. Start looking at the inner baggage, your inner darkness, your inner demons, and then confront them. And as you shine the light into those dark corners of your mind, peace will come. And I think too, it's a indicator to get your home in order, to get your life in order. It's very easy to be influenced when we're scattered. You know, we're sensitive to energies. You know, I'm sure that there are some spirit people who maybe aren't of the highest vibration. And so if we're split, if we're fragmented, if we're not grounded, if we're disassociated, if we lack poor boundaries in life, we're going to experience similar phenomena on a spiritual level. And then it's just going to compound and put layer upon layer and cause more confusion and cause more distortion. And before we know it, we're cursed, we're haunted, we're possessed, that sort of thing. Not the case. You know, in spiritualism too, we also abide by what we refer to as natural law, or the laws of the universe. I'm going to mention two: law of attraction, law of vibration. So law of attraction has become very popular because of things like The Secret and such, but I think that that's sort of a McDonald's surfacey sort of version of spiritual law. But in law of vibration, law of attraction, everything has a vibratory frequency. And when we live in alignment, when we have a connection to something higher than ourselves, and I don't care what that looks like. If you're an atheist, you can have a connection with nature. If you're a Christian, you can have a connection with God. If you're a New Age person, you can have a connection with angels. But if you don't have a connection to a higher source, if you're not engaging in things that keep you tuned into that divine essence, or that natural spark that exists within you, vibrationally you might not be in the best space. There's lots of things we can do to have a a positive, uplifted vibration, prayer, meditation, visualization, taking care of our physical body, exercising, being outside. And it's when we lose sight of that that we can start to encounter or attract maybe some not so great experiences, people, places, things like that to us. So be mindful of what you're bringing into yourself, because essentially that's what you're putting out and that's what you're bringing to you. So if you're running around afraid of demons and hatchet men and ghosts and goblins, well then you're going to prove to yourself that there's demons and hatchet men and ghosts and goblins. But if you walk through life knowing that you are this higher power, God, source, the universe, whatever you want to call it, in a physical form, having a physical experience, you are a part of that, you're not separate from that. If you essentially are God, what do you have to be afraid of? What could possibly exist outside of yourself that's not you? Everything is a mirror of the internal world. It's the microcosm and the macrocosm. So think about that. Understanding, remembering, knowing your divine essence, to me, is the epitome of grace. And when you walk in grace and you say, I am connected to Source, nothing can touch me, I honor and recognize the divine within me, then that's what you are. Then you're untouchable. You're eternal. So I guess what I'm trying to say is contemplate your eternal nature and know that it is pure, and know that there is nothing stagnant, spoiled, negative, malicious about that. Own your grace, own your divinity, walk in confidence that you are a divine being and that you stand in your own power and nothing can touch you. And I assure you, those cobwebs and ghosts and goblins and demons and all that scary shit will fall away. But nothing can affect you without your permission. You are not a victim. There are no victims. There are only willing participants. And when I speak on that, I speak on an energetic level, because obviously there are situations in life where things can happen outside of our control. But we have the divine authority to say what we do and do not allow, energetically and spiritually. So you may agree with me and resonate with this video. You may disagree with me. That's okay. My path is my path. Your path is your path. But I just wanted to share my perspective. Stop living in fear, because that's not living. That's not living at all. When we're in fear, we're stuck in the past. And when we're in anxiety, we're stuck in the future. And we just have to take things as they come, know where we are, remember that grace, and continue to know that we're part of something higher. That's the true essence. That's the true definition of spirituality. A spirituality doesn't have to look a particular way. It just says, I know I exist in a bigger way, and I'm seeking to understand that connection to something more, regardless of whatever it is. Nature, holographic field, an angel, a spirit guide, God, whatever you want to call it. And know too that your loved ones around you are constantly, seeking to bring safety and comfort and all those things to you. So even if you're in an experience where you feel uncomfortable, ask. Ask for peace. Ask for help. Ask for your spirit people, your team, to step forward and sort of stabilize things that are going on for you. But please, please, please use this as your opportunity to look within, clear those dark corners of your mind, clear those cobwebs from the corners, and know that you are loved.